Episode 306.
Those relationships, they turn into brotherhoods. They turn into father-son relationships. That's really exciting for me to see when I go and make my visits to different shops, is guys that have been working together for decades, but the kid started when he was 18, and he's still with that the technician that he's been working with, turning a wrench together now for 20 years. That's really exciting to see.
Welcome, Aftermarketers, to Remarkable Results Radio. Listen to learn just one thing from today's episode on your journey to remarkable results. Hey, Aftermarketers, welcome to the Remarkable Results Radio podcast. It's Carm Capriato. You know, the Auto Care Association represents the $740 billion global automotive aftermarket and has many organizations within itself. And one of them is Yang, the Young Auto Care Network Group. 3 members of Yang recently sat in the virtual studio here in episode 306. Hey, this episode is brought to you by Federal Mogul Motor Parts. Search for parts, get the latest technical updates, and sign up for their Garage Rewards loyalty program at fmmotorparts.com. Keep in mind, every Town Hall Academy lesson is released as a podcast episode. As of this moment in time, there are over 55 topics, and the best way to find the entire catalog is in the Academy archives at remarkableresults.biz/academy. So much great learning there, shared by your aftermarket colleagues. Hey, a great big shout out and thank yous to my new Facebook followers, Mark Perkins, Grace Nash, Michael Scamdarella, Mark Lynn, and George Mazzacano, and to my new LinkedIn connections, Nicholas DeMarco, Danny Ryder, and Carlo Tuzolino. Great to have you on board and engaged with the quality content produced for you each and every week. Hey, now meet my Yang Roundtable. Lisa Nazoyan from the marketing department at Mahle Aftermarket, J.C. Washbish, the director of marketing for the Aftermarket Auto Parts Alliance, and Chase Baxley, the vice president of product and supply chain at the Parts House in Jacksonville, Florida. Our future is all about incubating young people into our industry, and at every level from manufacturing, distribution, and to the service professional. I had a chance to hang out with 3 members of the auto care industry's dynamic and vibrant under 40 set that finds its home with the Young Auto Care Network Group, Yang. Now, Yang provides young auto care professionals in their 20s and 30s the opportunity to network with industry peers, enhance knowledge, and improve leadership capabilities. The Young Auto Care Network Group was formed in January 2014 with a desire to help young professionals establish a circle of peers to grow with and alongside their careers. Yang participants are future executive-level staffers of the auto care industry that see the value in establishing connections with other young professionals that will one day be business owners and key decision makers. We talk trends, mentoring, and how Yang makes our large industry smaller as you get a chance to see the other segments of the industry working together. The 1,500 members, as of this interview, are our future, and their energy and desire to build and improve our beloved aftermarket is evident in this discussion. One final thing, it's always important in any company to build a bench. Yang demonstrates to the industry leadership that there's an energetic group behind them, ready to learn what it takes to succeed into greater leadership roles. Now, listen to Lisa Nazoyan, J.C. Washbish, and Chase Baxley from Yang. A warm welcome to our Yang Roundtable, the Young Auto Care Network Group. I have with me Lisa Nazoyan from Mahle Aftermarket Inc. in Farmington Hills, Michigan. How you doing?
Doing well. End of year, wrapping things up. It's always a crazy time, but pushing through.
Great company, Mahle. Wow, you guys are doing such great things. I also have J.C. Washbish, Director of Marketing, Automotive Aftermarket Auto Parts Alliance in San Antonio, Texas. Hey, JC.
Howdy, Carm. Good to be here. Thanks for having us on today.
You're the vice chairman of Yang.
I am, and we're doing a lot of good things. Excited to report out what we did in 17, what we got coming down the pike here in 2018.
That's why we're here. Chase Baxley, vice president of product and supply chain at the Parts House in Jacksonville, Florida.
Hey, Carm. Sunny Florida. It's 80 degrees in Florida in December.
From all over the country. We've had our 2 foot of snow here. It's mostly all gone, and this weekend it's supposed to come back somehow. Miracles never cease. Hey, the thing I love about Yang, I've met JC. We were hanging out at the Fall Leadership Days at Auto Care in San Fran. It was a really good time to be there. And when I think about Yang, I think about next generation, and my audience is made up of 60% service professionals and the technicians at one of the most important elements of our distribution channel, the service professional. And I think about the tech shortage, skilled workers that we have joining the educational process of our industry. And, we're the 3rd or 4th largest GDP in the country. I mean, we're such a big industry, and we have a problem recruiting. And the thing I love about Yang is that you're going inside the industry and says, come on board under 40, right? And join our organization and let them see from that level in the organization way out and see the vision of the leadership in our organization. Is that singularly, guys, the biggest benefit of Yang? Yeah,
I mean, Carm, you hit it right on there. It's one, attracting people to the industry, and it's also keeping people that are young happy and excited to be in the industry, keeping them with us. It is a great place to be. It's much larger than most people think it is. I think a lot of times you get that first job out of school and you're looking for the next step and the next jump. And sometimes you don't even, you're not really even thinking career. You're not thinking industry. You're just thinking the 9 to 5 or the paycheck. And the goal of Yang is to get people excited about the industry, where they're at, to let them see that they can make a career in it, and that they really shouldn't be as concerned about the next step or the next jump, but just living in the moment and learning that there is more to learn, there's more to garnish, and that this is a place that you can call home for the next 20, 30, 40 years. You might not be chained to the same desk or same warehouse or parts store or shop, but you'll be able to refine and hone your skills with the support of a very robust and large, but at the same time, extremely intimate industry. You look at the people on this call with Chase and Lisa. We've been working together now on Yang for several years in different roles. I think we've all changed around a bit within our own organizations or different organizations. But the point is, we still call the auto care industry our home, and we're excited to be here in our mid-30s on this call today, knowing that 30 years from now we'll be in our mid-60s, hopefully doing the same thing.
Is there a Yang type group for the older sector?
Sure, we call that the rest of the guys in the industry.
That's everyone else.
Yeah, that's everyone else.
Everybody above your pay grade, right?
That's pretty much it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Carm, I'll tack on. I've actually worked Yang into the interview process for new hires. I interviewed probably a dozen college students only a week or so ago, and they actually find it very interesting to have a conversation about Yang, and they find it intriguing, so I think it's helped our recruiting process as well, if you're able to work that in on how they can connect outside of just the workplace that they're joining.
Chase, you're a parts house.
I'm the parts house.
And how many stores?
We have 43 locations, headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida.
Big company. Wow. And you fit Yang into the discussion. Is the reason you bring it in because you want to show a long-term future inside the industry or your company?
Students are looking for a career path, and the millennials today want to feel connected beyond just their employer. So we've really found that showing them a platform that gives them national exposure, and there's other young newcomers like them that they can interact with, is very intriguing, and they really find that as an interest. So we try to work that in as an option for them whenever we're going through the interview process.
I will echo what JC and Chase said there. Yang for me was or is a group that makes this big industry much smaller, which I didn't realize when I first entered it. It seemed so huge. I didn't realize the connections I was missing out on. And until I started volunteering with Women in Auto Care and Yang eventually, when it came on board, that's when I really made those connections and relationships that will last, hopefully, throughout my career in the industry.
I'm glad you said Women in Auto Care. It's one of my favoriteest groups. Love that group. Love the CCPN. and Yang. Auto Care's got a lot of great groups that make up the entire organization. So the impact of Yang in the industry, what does it take to recruit inside to bring awareness to Yang team? How are you doing? I see that you have 1,361 members. That's a huge group, and it's only been, a few years you've been doing this?
We've been going strong for a few years now. We have over 1,500 members. And Carm, to really answer your question, what's the impact that it's making on the industry? We have several different facets in which we're touching people. But number one, at least from my chair and where we look, it's to show the leadership in the industry that there is another generation behind them. That, they need to be secure in the bottom line today, and they need to be taking care of their own, because in the end you're out for number one, but they need to feel good and empowered that behind them there is this generation. And I don't like necessarily using the hashtags millennial or Gen Y or Gen Z. I just think it's the next crop. It's the next crop of leaders that are coming out, and we give tomorrow's leaders a voice. We give tomorrow's employees, tomorrow's workers a voice, that we're here, and we don't necessarily think we're the best. We know we have a lot to learn, and we're looking for those mentors, for the leadership to take us by the hands and show us how to be great and to build upon an industry that the founders before them and their fathers before them established and put together. So that's part of where the first impact comes from. And then the another one is to show that as I mentioned earlier, to the young people that are in industry that are looking to chase the greener pastures or looking for that carrot elsewhere, thinking, now it's time to jump. Now's the time to get out of this game because somebody else is fluffing me and they're throwing something at me that just seems too good to be true. The reality is it probably might be too good to be true. And we see it all the time. You'll be back in the industry because this is a good, strong place to be with a future that I don't want to say it's guaranteed. But if you do the right things, if you meet the right people, and if you work hard and put in the time, you'll do well. And Yang is that avenue, that vehicle to do well, because you'll make those connections and you'll continue to position yourself within your company and position your company's position within the industry to success.
There isn't any kind of recruitment from the senior people in our industry through the Yang organization, is there? Are people staying away? They're not picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, Chase, I know you're a member of the organization. We're looking for an executive, and can you recommend anyone?" Does any of that go on?
So that was a hot topic early on as we were looking to change our presence. So I can say that it was discussed at length early on. I don't think it really comes up now. People are going to change jobs. So I think we certainly have steered away from it. We don't allow our sponsors to use, this as a platform for, changing positions, recruitment within our group. But people change jobs in any industry. So to say it doesn't happen would be an unfair statement. But no, that's not a goal of ours by any means.
Makes a lot of sense to have people that sponsor you and not to have to worry about if I send one of my young people to join Yang, they're going into a recruiting tank, and they wouldn't want that.
But on that note, if I can share a story. So 3 years ago, whenever this really started, I'll share a story from our CEO, David Honig, the CEO of the Parts House. He was in an AWA setting. They were talking about young people, bringing more people to industry. And they asked David, well, how do you do it? Because we've had a number of corporate staff members that are young and that have traveled. And it's like, well, have you tried? These guys are all complaining that they weren't able to bring in, how do you find these young people? Like, well, it's a different recruitment process, and have you tried? And most of them haven't. It's this daunting task as how it was viewed back then. So I think we maybe as a group have shed some light that it's not impossible, and it just takes a little bit of a different effort in how you approach it.
I'm talking with Anthony Frowine, a technical product specialist with Federal Mogul Motor Parts. Anthony, when you're in a shop, are you talking tech as well as product?
Whenever I do a physical training, there is product incorporated part of the whole training overall, but it's to maximize the time, whether it's diagnostics, whether it's inspection, whether it's installation. So that way they understand that, hey, by skipping that extra 20 seconds by putting on this set of brake pads and not replacing the hardware, hey, this might be the reason why that I'm getting comebacks. And usually, being a ex-shop owner, I understand that the first time you get paid, the second time's free.
And so are the techs really starving for this information?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of times you have, we live in an industry where I like to say they cut the roast in half and they don't understand why, but they do it just because they've always been doing that type of an industry. So, to break it through that, they've been doing something for 30 years and they see as they haven't been doing anything wrong, but it starts to open up their eyes to, hey, you know what? It wasn't necessarily wrong, but there is a better way.
So you're really talking to me about an aha moment.
Exactly.
And tell me, when you see that happening more and more from technicians that you're out with, how does it make you feel?
Oh, it's awesome. You really feel like you're giving back to the community overall. But ultimately, the way I tell them, I look at every single vehicle that I worked on prior to, or I had my customer, just like I'd put my family in that vehicle. I look at it as I'm keeping everybody else that much safer because the job's getting done correctly.
Federal Mogul Motor Parts' Garage Gurus is your go-to source for the vehicle training, technology, and answers you need to keep your next job on track. On-site, online, or on demand, the Gurus are here to help keep your business and your career on the road to success. Visit fmgarageguru.com. Lisa, let's talk about mentoring. I love mentoring. I know the Woman in Auto Care has a great mentoring program. What's Yang doing for mentoring?
At the moment, and JC can probably speak more to this, I just rejoined the board after a year or so on the OE side. So see, touching on what he just said, you'll come back if you end up leaving our industry.
Every time I try to leave, they pull me right back in.
But we have a mentor pin that was established this year, and we're always seeking mentors, trying to build up a more formal program over the next year or so. And please correct me if I'm wrong, JC. But mentoring is hugely important to carry on the next generation and to share that information that, at some point soon will go away as people start retiring from our industry. And so mentoring is hugely important.
The reason that I like mentoring is I think it's going on at every level of our industry, some to a higher degree than others. And I really just want to encourage our listener to recognize that mentoring is good. Can anyone share a mentoring experience without, breaching any confidentialities?
Absolutely. And to really expand on what Lisa's talking about, in Yang, we toyed around from a council point of view of, should we establish a comprehensive, dedicated mentoring program that has rules and limits. And the reality is we just really avoided that. We avoid that concept. Mentoring, the best form of mentoring, just like the best form of networking, should happen organically. Because that's where you find the fits that make sense, and the people that are willing to work together as a mentor and a mentee. And I've seen it personally with several people in the industry that I've been privileged. I fell out of the right womb by being, fourth generation auto parts and coming from a family with it. But with that comes its own challenges, right? With that comes the silver spoon concept, and people question you. Luckily, in this industry where there's a lot of family businesses, I've had some guys that I can lean on, and I can ask questions to that. We're in similar positions. I think one of them is Corey Bartlett. He is the president and CEO of APH up in Minnesota. And the guy, whether he knows it or not, he's a great mentor. And he stands back. And what makes him a great mentor is he listens, and then he provides advice, and he's willing to help you out and put you in a direction to make you successful. And, I think Yang just helps facilitate that. One, it helps that Corey was in Yang before he recently aged out of Yang, but already a mentor while among our ranks. So I think in Yang, we got mentors within the Yang ranks, folks that have been in here a little bit longer, folks that have connections that they've established a little firmer than people that are newer in the industry. But that's what we're looking for in the mentorship. So one thing that we did do to help quasi-formalize a mentor program is we launched the Yang Mentor Pin. And this is anybody in the industry over the age of 40 can purchase this pin, and then they can wear it proudly. And Carm, you've supported us with it. And what you do is you stand out. You stand out at events. places like Apex or other different meetings with that pin on. We just got back from the Alliance Winter Shareholder Meeting in Miami, Florida, and we had several manufacturers there, channel partners there, and some of our own members rocking the pin. People that are standing up, and really all you're saying is, hey, anybody that's younger in this industry that's looking for an ear and looking to support you, I'm here to support you. So thank you to all those mentor pin wearers that we have out there. And then thank you to everybody else that has taken the moment, whether in this industry or beyond, to just take that young person or that coworker under your wing, and everybody benefits. The mentor and the mentee, they can both benefit from that relationship.
Isn't it amazing, JC and Chase and Lisa? Have you ever sat with a mentor and they put their listening cap on? They didn't want to listen to reply. They wanted to listen to learn. And when you were done, you figured out your problem just by you talking it out to someone who wasn't going to be too opinionated. It wasn't like you were going to talk to your supervisor, your boss, or an equal or a peer. And did it ever happen to you? Because it's happened to me a lot of times.
Yeah, I think what I've seen is the outreach, that there are so many of our industry veterans that are willing to give time to help bring young people through and to give them guidance. And I'll give you one example. So David Miller is our chief operating officer here. I've known him now for probably 12 years. And what I like most about getting into his ear is that he puts things into perspective that I can relate to. And he has this amazing ability to just help me find simple meanings in complicated situations.
Simple meanings in complicated situations.
Is that the right? I don't know if that even makes any sense.
That is.
I like it.
Yes. Wow. That's a big takeaway from this. Man, I think, that's the $25 takeaway right there, Chase. Mentoring, Lisa. Any great experiences?
Most definitely. I've had several mentors in my career here in auto care, which, just to touch on what Chase was saying, and what you said, Carm, about having a listening ear, sometimes that's all you need. For something that seems so complex, if you have a veteran of a mentor, they have so much experience and so many different things that they go through in the workplace or personal life. It doesn't matter. And what you have there is that trust. And that is so important when you're going through something, whether it's professional or personal. And to be able to have a listening ear and work through things with somebody, even if it's just a sounding board, it's immensely important, having that trust factor outside of your workplace.
Yeah, Lisa, where you're lucky too, personally very lucky, is the guy that you get to work with every day. She works with Ted Hughes at Mahle, and Ted is one of the greatest guys ever in this industry. And he was the first mentor pin wearer for Yang. He religiously speaks at the Next Step program at the Auto Care Leadership Days in the spring. And he's always been the first to volunteer, to help out, and to reach out to anybody. So I'm envious that you get to be with them. And when I was with NGK Spark Plugs, living in the same town, Ted and I would go to lunch and talking, what can we do to get young people excited? Mm-hmm. And he's always putting the industry first. And Ted will be one of the first people to say, I started as a young guy. He's worked hard. He's done a lot of great things, but he got to where he's at by connecting with the right people. And that's what makes Ted such a valuable asset as a mentor, in that he's willing to give back. And a true mentor, they're willing to give back.
Absolutely. And on the flip side of mentoring, it's not only the mentor or the mentee who's receiving something. You should be, as a mentee, wanting to give back any way that you can, whether it's, we're young professionals and we are very in touch with technology and social media and things like that we can expand somebody else's knowledge on that. So you should always be, as a mentee, in the position to give. How can I give back? How can I volunteer? And Yang is a great example. The more work you do, the more exposure you get as far as relationship building. Don't you see inside this great, beloved aftermarket of ours, people wanting to pay it forward? Absolutely. And I'm fortunate to see it from my chair in the marketing department of a program group, is we do a lot with the Certified Service Center network. We have over 3,500 certified service centers in our network. And I really see it at the street level at some of these top shops, as you'll have the ATEC
I mean, the guy that's really running it, and just that shop talk, and they get this conversation going with the B-Tech or the new hire or the young service writer. I mean, whoever it is, and it's those relationships that these guys, back to your point earlier in the call, Carm, is, what can we do to get young people excited? A lot of that relationship can really be forged on the shop floor. And that's where it goes from just a job to a career and a meaningful way of life. Because in those relationships, they turn into brotherhoods. They turn into father-son relationships. That's really exciting for me to see when I go and make my visits to different shops, is guys have been working together for decades, but the kid started when he was 18 and he's still with that, the technician that he's been working with, turning a wrench together now for 20 years. That's really exciting to see.
Wisdom coming at you.
Absolutely.
Let's turn a trend on this. I sure appreciate this great dialogue. Love what you guys are doing. Let's talk about trends. What's going on inside the industry? I mean, you're all so well connected. You've got your radar on. Could you share a trend, Chase, that you're concerned about? Things that may be a challenge down the road.
Yeah, so I'll share a couple things that are on the forefront of us right now. Our company is thinking more globally as we have some new relationships and partnerships with some companies outside of the United States. And so things like what's happening with today's vehicle, and as the electric vehicle becomes more and more prevalent in our marketplace, what does that mean for our industry? How does the aftermarket evolve with these electric vehicles? Not just a connected car and telematics, but really more of what does this mean for SKU counts, and what does this mean for the service center's ability to repair these vehicles? Are we going to have more IT personnel than counter personnel one day? Are we going to be thinking more about apps and how they connect to vehicles more so than a catalog platform? And it's brought a different perspective working with Mayor Benny, who's our parent company now, from a global perspective, and thinking 5-10 years out versus maybe how we used to think, which is we need to deliver this part today on time. So I think I'll stop there, but there's certainly some very macro issues ahead of us that.
Where do you see you getting the information as to what the marketplace needs to have on their shelf in order to supply today's part?
I think that's going to be easier in the future, right? As telematics expands into the connected vehicle, as the electric vehicle becomes more prevalent, as the Wi-Fi connections grow, we'll know more about failure rates as an industry. Now, hopefully it's not just OE. Let's hope that it's available information for all. But the predictability of what's going to fail will, I think, improve dramatically. But does that mean parts will actually fail, right? The ability to improve quality, the ability to manage those repairs, all that's going to improve, assuming that it's an open platform and that companies like the Parts House, traditional companies, have access to that data, that service centers have access to that data. So in a sense, we're in a position now where our SKU counts from a distributor's point are growing astronomically. But my position is I feel that will start to reduce as these vehicles have less working components and more electric components.
That's huge. Wow, the electric vehicle and what that means to the entire industry. Yeah, there's some moving parts there, but not as many and not as much maintenance. Obviously, we have to adapt to it, and we've survived every different iteration of technology, haven't we?
To Chase's point, I think it's a very exciting opportunity. These technologies, it comes down to really solid cataloging, and technology will make that better. The catalogs will speak, will be more clear. So to Chase's point, it's still about having the right part at the right time, and those times will be a little more predictable. So in this race, it's an arms race. It's a technology arms race, and I can sit in my chair confidently because as a program group at the Alliance, there's no question that we lead in the North American industry in our technologies, and we started that with our first B2C.
Debatable topic.
It could be debatable. But
friction. I love it.
You can't debate our continual growth within this landscape. And the truth is, yeah, Chase is right. Will the amount of jobs be there? The amount of components that break down on the car, the amount of trips to the bay, Maybe not. So just capitalize on those that are available. It's going to be higher dollar jobs. It's going to be the top shops that are going to survive. It's going to be the technology savvy shops. Luckily, today's kids are born with iPads in their hands, so they'll be able to accommodate that. I think it's the shops that struggle with that. They don't embrace the technologies, or they don't have a group or support that can help them with those technologies. So if you're doing that, you can support them. One thing I wanted to piggyback on with Chase mentioned, if these shops or us as an independent group and Chase as an independent group have the right to repair these vehicles, if we have the right to that data and those technologies, and this is one thing you asked, what is Yang doing to impact the industry? Well, I can tell you from a council standpoint, from the Yang Council, we were the first council in the Auto Care Association to be all in with a 100% contribution to the Auto Care Political Action Committee. We've tasked the council this year to have submitted their contribution dollars by the first of the year. So we can be all in early in the 1st of January. And for what some of the listeners might not know, they might not know what the ACPAC is. The Auto Care Political Action Committee is a PAC in D.C., and it's comprised of both sides of the aisle. And what is really exciting for me from a Yang perspective is these are personal dollars, tax income. This is money that I've raised. This is money that Lisa's raised, that Chase has earned, right? This comes out of our paycheck that we turn around personally, cutting a check to this PAC so they can go onto the floor of Congress and petition on behalf, not of us, but on behalf of the repair facility and the consumer to have that right to the data that's within their vehicle and within their customers' vehicles so they can repair those jobs. And not so all the jobs don't go back to the OE and they're going to the dealership, which the dealership, by the way, their bays couldn't handle all the work. They need us. They need the independents. But it's data that the driver owns and the shop should have a right to if the driver wants them to. And we're doing that. And we're not doing that. I'm not just saying industry. This is a personal decision. It's no different than putting money in the plate at church on Sunday. Are you all in? Are you all in to support this industry? And proudly, from a council perspective with Yang, we're all in. We put our own dollars in there. And then proudly also from the Alliance, from Auto Value Bumper to Bumper, we've raised more money independently than any other program group in the industry this year for the ACPAC. And that's since the ACPAC's inception, we continue to lead that fight. And what's so great about that is every other group is behind us and supporting it too. And as independents, the independent program groups spend more money in the ACPAC than anybody else. So if you want to talk about people that really care, it's us. It's guys like Chase and guys like the Alliance that are really driving that.
How can people contribute?
You can easily contribute by going to autocare.org and looking up information on the ACPAC. And I'll throw one out here too, folks. If you got your pens and papers out, my email is the letter J and C at alliance1.com. Put in the subject ACPAC question, and we'll follow up with you on that. So anybody can contribute. There are some limitations based on your income, whether you're hourly or not. But if you're a shop owner listening, if you're a professional technician listening, your dollars matter and they speak. And this is not a blue state, red state deal. This is a purple job. Everybody's coming together, and it's both sides of the aisle working hard to make sure that you have a right to repair that consumer's vehicle. To what Chase said, having the right part at the right time, a good price point, none of that matters if you don't have access to that data.
I'll just add the website's super easy to go through it, under a minute to make the donation. I found it, it's seamless, and also worth noting if many people are not aware, but the Legislative Summit, if someone really wants to get involved, there's an annual Legislative Summit that the Auto Care Association holds in D.C. that it's a great opportunity for those to get in front of their legislative officials. So,
trends in a positive way, things you want to see happen, guys and lady?
I think technology is making us better. We communicate with our customer base electronically more than ever. Our salespeople have apps to our internal information through intranets. Our customer representatives text, email constantly. There's images, there's voice calls or FaceTimes where they're showing us things on the vehicle. The ability to manage our businesses together has dramatically improved the consumer's experience as we compete against the bigger OE companies today. So traditional service centers are able to get closer to a level playing field with some of the technologies that are available to us now.
Yeah, Chase is right on too, especially with what his outfit is doing. You take these awesome technologies to service your technician professionals, but like Chase, we also have that flexibility, the leniency. We can get the right parts to you with excellent dispatch and delivery, but we also were nimble enough in this independent realm to make the gut decisions, to pull the trigger. Hey, maybe that product's out of warranty. We'll work with you. It's a partnership in this deal, not just a customer relationship, but it's a partnership. And I know that's one thing that Parts House does really well is they're nimble and they can get the part to you. So he's right on with technology. And one thing from my standpoint is the autonomous vehicle and ride sharing. This is a very exciting opportunity for us and to anyone that's repairing vehicles for a living. Okay, maybe the ownership of the vehicle count goes down a little bit. Fine. The good news is NTSBA is in cahoots with the FAA on the rules and regulations for the autonomous vehicle. If the FAA has their hands on anything, it's good news because the regulation is going to be through the roof, and it's going to be cars got to be up to code, and there's going to be more work getting done that these guys are looking for. And then when you talk about ride sharing, okay, less vehicles that are being owned, but a ride sharing vehicle is a vehicle that gets driven. And vehicles that get driven are better than vehicles that sit in garages. So we like high mileage, right? We like rides that are really getting put to work. And these are going to be rides outside of the dealership warranty. These are going to be rides that need to have work done. And again, as we see more legislation and regulation come in on these rides, they're going to have to be up to snuff, just like airplanes, which is good for all of us on this call.
Really is. The miles driven, I don't believe is going to go down. And so even if it's a smaller fleet, we've actually done some shows on this where maybe, there'll be 24-hour service centers and the car will drive itself there at 2 a.m. To be repaired and go back to the garage.
Yeah, I agree as well. And one comment that, well, I view it as positive. I love the spin or the perspective, that you put on there. But our technicians, our customers have to also be prepared to service these larger fleets. So you can't accept, 2 or 3 cars a day. You've got to be prepared to manage larger fleets. So while there's consolidation at the distribution level, we hope that the technicians are preparing to change their service-based centers and prepare for these large fleet services.
And that's where the data is going to come in and be so important. The history of the vehicle, the repairs that have been done, the codes that are coming out, the blending of all the data that not only helps the repair, but it's going to help the distribution channel. By having the information, I guess it would be really cool to be able to know in a marketplace all the oxygen sensors that have been sold, and you could figure out what your share is because of what you are selling versus what the big potential is, and you can find yourself lots of opportunities there. Data, I think that's going to be it's going to be war-winning opportunities if you can do the right things with data. Hey, so look I've so enjoyed this. Tell me, you guys have a conference each and every year?
Yeah, we got a Yang Leadership Conference. It's in tandem with the Auto Care Leadership Days, their Spring Leadership Days, which take place in May this year. And if you give me 1 second, I can tell you the date on those days. And what we do is we encourage people to come in for the Leadership Days and sit in on these different committee meetings. I mean, this is where you can see what's really going on from an association level. What are people doing about these emerging technologies? What are people doing about government affairs? What are people doing about cataloging? What are we doing from an industry standpoint to make everyone's job more efficient? So we would hope that people would consider joining us.
Should be the 9th to the 11th.
The 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. In our 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th of May. And our leadership conference begins the afternoon of the 11th. And this will be at the Marquee in Atlanta. Again, more information on that is found on autocare.org.
Lisa, what's a wish? Give me something on your wish list for Yang.
A wish list for me for Yang is to encourage volunteerism within our membership and people considering Yang to become a member of Yang. And really you get so much out of the industry. Speaking personally, I really didn't find my place in the industry until I started giving back. And even a few years in or 1 year into the industry, you have something to give back. And that's what I want people to take away from this is at any stage in your career, you can give back, whether it's to professionals older than you and teaching them something about they're not as familiar with, or, that colleague you have who your strength is their weakness and vice versa. And continuing to volunteer your time with organizations like Yang can really put a stamp on the industry.
Hey, I really want to thank you guys for coming on. Listen, I learned an awful lot more about Yang, realized the passion that the group has for the betterment of the industry, and I love the mentoring program and loved it, actually, all that you guys had to say about how you see our industry. So I want to thank Lisa Nazoyan from Mahle Aftermarket out in Farmington Hills, Michigan. Chase Baxley, the Vice President of Product and Supply Chain, the Parts House in Jacksonville, Florida. And J.C. Washbish, Director of Marketing, Automotive Aftermarket Auto Parts Alliance, San Antonio. That's Auto Value and Bumper to Bumper, right, J.C.?
You got it.
Hey, let me give you the last word.
Well, thanks, Carm, for having all of us on here. And to anybody out there that's interested under the age of 40 and being in Yang, get involved. This isn't going to come to you. You got to come to us. And that's the first step. We're not, as millennials and young people, we shouldn't have this stuff spoon-fed to us. We might have been the generation of everybody gets a medal, but let's prove a point is we're the generation that's trying to get it done. And then with that, my one, you asked Carm, if I had one wish this year, what would it be? I'd wish that everybody that worked in this wonderful industry would give enough crap, if I can say that on here, give enough of a crap about this industry to really consider participating in the ACPAC. We are fighting an uphill battle against the dealerships, and if everybody just gave $2, how many people are in this industry? 4 million people, Carm? Is that what we say? 4 million people were in this. So if everybody that worked here gave $2, we'd be at $8 million, which is a far cry away from the $260,000 we raised this year. And that goes especially to all you hot shots, all of you guys that are executives, your vice presidents, your directors, anybody that sits on an Auto Care Association council. If you don't currently participate in the ACPAC, we're begging you to. Put your money where your mouth is, stand up and be the leader you should be, and contribute. And to all of you, those that don't know about the ACPAC, learn more. We'd love to have you. And this is how we win battles in Congress, all right? Let's support it together as a team. And then to all you young folks looking and thinking, do I have the career that's right for me? Am I in the right spot? You probably already found it in the auto care industry. And if you haven't, come on board. We'd love to have you. And Yang is the avenue to get you there.
Thanks, JC. Are you running for office?
Yeah.
No, I do it to really annoy Chase because he thinks that I'm such a junior guy. I don't have the right to tell the old people to put their money where their mouth is.
Oh,
but
no,
I love
it.
Carm, I love is the Foreign Affairs Committee or the Government Affairs Committee of Auto Care asked Yang to do a standalone legislative summit. And my first question upon that request was, well, how many people, what is the percentage of contribution by the Government Affairs Committee? This is the committee that founded the ACPAC. What is the percentage that participate in the ACPAC itself? And it's still not at 100%. How can you sit there and say, we got to have an ACPAC, but then you're not going to support it? That is bogus. That's like ordering your wife to make French toast and then not eating it. It's shameful. So we want to avoid that with Yang and everything that we do. We stand up, we put our money where our mouth is, and that's what's going to make us tomorrow's great leaders.
JC he is not shy.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to this and figure out what he just said, but I love that French toast analogy.
Thanks, Carm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, Aftermarketers, thanks for investing in this episode with Lisa Nazoyan, J.C. Washbish, and Chase Baxley from Yang. Can you tell? The future is bright. Now, if you love the interview, share it with a friend. See the show notes at remarkableresults.biz/E306. Isn't it great to slow down for less than an hour and listen to the premier Automotive Aftermarket podcast? So much to learn, so many ideas and insights to consider and implement. I'm glad you've become a loyal listener and appreciate the wisdom found in every interview.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier Automotive Aftermarket podcast. Until next time,